Major. Greater in dignity, rank, importance, or interest. Having half steps between the third and fourth and seventh and eighth degrees based on a major scale. I started my journey with the guitar at the age of 9. I had heard guitars being played on records and listened to the sound, and I just fell in love with the sound of the instrument. So I asked my folks to get me a guitar, and they weren't too happy about it right away. They didn't jump at the opportunity to get me a guitar because they thought, well, Mark's got a lot of hobbies already. He doesn't need to play the guitar. But they did. It was a $25 nylon string guitar back in 1966. And I played that guitar till it fell apart. Now, I took a couple of lessons at a local community center so that I could learn a few chords. I think I remember learning an A minor chord, maybe a D minor chord, a D major chord, an E major chord. That was about it because I only took a few lessons, and then I decided, I'm just going to do this on my own. I'm going to figure it out. I had a feel for it, I thought, So I had a couple of books, actually, finally, and one of the books taught me how to play a C major scale. And that's where the C major scale was at the beginning of the book. And I think most people, if they're looking for how do you play a C major scale on the guitar, most beginning methods will show you how to play it there, because the assumption is that, well, your chords are there, your scale is going to be in that space. So if what you want to do is play a C major scale in that space, then sure. But if what you want to do is play the guitar, meaning that we have all this to work with. Now, if you were taking a beginning piano lesson and you were starting out on the piano, your teacher would not say to you, okay, we're going to start all the way over on this one side here, and we're going to work our way across from the left side of the piano all the way over to the right side of the piano. But, you're a beginner, so you got to start on all the way over at that end.
Oh, hi, Mark.
I'm here for my piano lesson.
Come right in.
Thank you.
So let's get started.
Okay.
Oh, no. You have to start over there. You're a beginner.
Oh.
And this part of the piano is too hard for you.
All the way over here at this end?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but that's what we do on the guitar to beginners. We say, oh, you're a beginner, so you got to stay here for a while, because all this other stuff, much too complicated for you. Wait a minute. Everything that happens on the guitar fingerboard, all the fingering patterns, all the chord shapes, as long as you don't include open strings, all of those shapes are movable. So it makes sense to learn patterns that do not depend on open strings. Yes, even when you're starting out. And there's no reason at all to wait until you've been playing for, any length of time. You can learn this lesson number 1. Now that is lesson number 1 when someone comes to me who has not played the guitar. That's lesson number 1. Let's look at 3 basic ways to play the C major scale. Single string scales, 2 string scales, and 3 string scales. But first, it's a good idea to have an understanding of scale structure, starting with intervals, the distances between the notes. Here are the notes of the C major scale. And here are the intervals of the C major scale, the distances between the notes. W for whole step, H for half step. We can break it up into 2 groups of 4, which we call tetrachords, each with the same interval structure, 2 whole steps and a half step, with a whole step in between the 2 tetrachords. Next, we'll look at scale degrees. Roman numerals are used to indicate scale degrees, and they correspond with the alphabetical note names. When you play a major scale in another key, the alphabet letters will change, but the interval sequence and the Roman numeral scale degrees will stay the same. Now that we've looked at the basic structure of the major scale, let's apply that knowledge on the guitar fretboard. We'll start with single-string scales. On the first fret of the B string, the first finger plays C, the second finger plays D, the third finger plays E, the fourth finger plays F. Return to the first finger for G, second finger A, third finger B, and fourth finger for C at the end. The intervals are between your fingers. Play this scale slowly and carefully. Let each note sustain a bit. Become aware that the notes and the intervals between the notes are not just on the fretboard, but in your hand. That's lesson number 1, C major scale on the second string, on the B string, starting from the first fret. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. With these 4 fingers, 1 note per finger, 1 finger per note. Now, why do I start there? If you're playing music based on the diatonic system, the system that has the 12 keys and the major scales and the minor scales and the A minor chords and the C major chords, if you're playing music based on that system, even a little bit, if you're playing music based on that system, the C major scale is the starting point. By default, the 7-letter alphabet with no sharps or flats, the simplest expression of this idea, happens in the key of C major, with the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, there are many ways to play those 7 notes, that scale, that key structure on the fretboard. So the simplest, really, 1 string, 4 notes at a time, or 4-note groupings, 2 of them, the same as each other. And then we can take that from 1 string and connect it to 2 strings. So now we have the second string C, D, E, F, the first 4-note sequence, the first tetrachord, and then G, A, B, C now on the first string, starting at the 3rd fret. And the way we find that note as we go through the scale, we'll have C, D, E, F. When you get to F, if your hand is aligned with the fret spaces now, so that your 4th finger is on the 6th fret, your 3rd finger is on the 5th, your 2nd finger is on the 4th, and your 1st finger is on the 3rd fret, 1 finger per fret now, that gives us a whole step between these 2 strings. So we have F on the 2nd string on the 6th fret, and we have G on the 1st string on the 3rd fret. 6, 5, 4, 3, 4 spaces, a proper whole step. And then we have the next 4 notes just as we did initially. So the first 4 notes, now we switch strings, the next 4 notes. We'll play our first 2-string scale, starting in the same place as before. The first fret on the B string for the first tetrachord. Now we'll shift to the 3rd fret on the high E string for the next 4 notes. This is a 2-string C major scale with the 2nd string 1st fret tonic. If we place the tonic on the 5th string at the 3rd fret, the scale will be an octave lower. Shifting the tonic to the 5th fret of the 5th string gives us a D major scale. Let's shift the pattern to the next string. The same fingering pattern on the 4th string at the 5th fret gives us a G major scale. But when we place the pattern on the 3rd string, it changes its shape due to the unique interval relationship between the G and the B string. Compare the positions of the notes on these two strings with those of the same pitch on the B and the high E string. Now let's check out some 3-string scales, briefly returning to this 2-string scale for comparison. When we distribute the notes of the scale across 3 strings, we lose the simplicity and symmetry of the tetrachord forms, but the notes get closer together, making them easier to play more rapidly. There are 3 different shapes for these 3-string scales. This 5th string version of the scale has the notes positioned a little bit differently than the previous example, which had its tonic on the 3rd string. But the shape remains the same when it goes from the 5th string to the 6th. And it acquires a unique form when the tonic is placed on the 4th string. The major 3rd interval between the G and the B strings causes the changes in the shapes of these patterns, as opposed to the perfect 4th intervals between any other pair of adjacent strings. We got this one. We got this one. We got that one. And we've got that one. 4 different ways. Well, really 3. It depends on how you look at it. These two are the same based on the fingering structure, based on the shape. This one, different from those others. And this one, also different. Within the structure of the diatonic system, the C major scale is simply the simplest expression of the way a musical key works. The interval structure of the scale is the interval structure of the key itself. The distances between the notes in a relative sense, from one to the next, but also in an absolute sense, because that structure of 2 whole steps and a half step, 3 whole steps, half step, 2 whole steps, half, 3, half, 2, 3, 2, 3, is the architecture of every key. Now, by default, we assume the key of C because there are no sharps or flats, and that's what makes it the simplest. It's just terminologically simpler. It's simpler language, simpler terminology. So if you understand the key of C, you understand all 12 keys. The sharps and flats, which happen in other keys and not in the key of C, you will understand those better if you don't start with them. Leave them alone, right? Because the key of C is the template, and the sharps and flats are what are known as alterations. When you see a sharp or a flat in a piece of music that is not part of the key signature already, then you are altering the set of notes that you are working with by adding that sharp or that flat. That's an alteration. yeah, what does that mean, accidental? The word accident basically means a thing that happens. The origin of the word accident is something that happens. We talk about having happy accidents, but it's usually, in current usage, thought of as a negative thing, as a bad thing, as an unwanted thing. So it's a little bit strange that we have accidentals, but on purpose, because they are alterations, because they change. A thing that happens is a thing that involves some sort of change for something to happen. So music is happening all the time and is changing all the time. And you need to follow the changes. And when you follow the changes, you need to know what they are called. And if you want to know what they're called and you don't get the key of C right away, you're going to be in trouble. you're going to have difficulty. We don't want it to be difficult, right? We want it to be simple. So I brought up the subject of sharps and flats and alterations simply because we're not going to talk about them after this right now. Anyway, not here. They will be forthcoming. But right now, key of C, natural tones, no sharps, no flats. How do you do it? How do you find it? Let's keep going. I'd like to thank everyone who has subscribed to my channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really appreciate it. If you're watching this video now and you like what you've seen and you want to see more, please subscribe. Please, please, please. If you have any thoughts on the subject at hand or any thoughts on music in general, comment below. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Next video will be a further exploration of the themes covered in this video, how to connect these patterns, how to migrate from these patterns into other keys, the sharp keys, the flat keys, the circle of fifths, etc. Too much to cover in this one video, so that is coming soon. Also, yes, I would like to thank Lucy Hudson for her role as the piano teacher in this video. Lucy is a pianist extraordinaire, and I hope to be featuring her again in future videos as well. So that's it for now. Thank you, and I will see you soon.